You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market, stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit zombieoutpoststore.com for location and hours. Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No-nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Greetings and salutations, Counterculture-Wise listeners. This is Maximilian von Riegelbieser inviting you and yours to listen to me and mine. Join me, my sisters Abby and Fritzy, and my weekly guests, my father Jim and Mumsy Melanie, for Counterculture-Wise.
Max, it's not your show!
And we're not your guests, Max. We're the hosts. You may want to rein it in a little bit, buddy.
Very well. Tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific at counterculturewise.com for our amazing live variety show. You can even chat with us. If you ask me, though, it should be called Counterculture Max.
Counterculture Wise! Radio with heart in mind.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra tone is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. Recite the Constitution in a public commons or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. Are You Ready is an NP Media Group production and is the official broadcast of the Zombie Outpost in Wilmington, Ohio. The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast are those of the host and not that of the station, advertisers, or its affiliates. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. You never know when an emergency is going to happen. Disaster can strike at any time. Whether stuck on the road, riding out a power outage, escaping a natural disaster, or surviving a doomsday apocalypse, what would you do? No matter the scale, whether 1 hour or 1 year, will you survive? You're about to hear what it takes to be prepared. Now ask yourself, are you ready? Have you ever heard the term prepper? What comes to mind? Some of you may think it's a crazy guy with a bomb shelter and an old army truck parked on the front lawn. Well, prepper simply is a person who is almost ready, or should be ready, for almost any emergency, small or large. You see, it's no different than on a rainy day taking an umbrella with you when you leave your home or putting a coat on when it's cold outside. So maybe you think you're prepared for a brief time in that environment. But what if a few minutes turn into a day or even a year? I'm your host, Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper, and I'm going to use my over 25 years of prepping and survival experience and knowledge in this program to help prepare you and your family to handle almost everything, from a small event to a doomsday apocalypse. So get ready, because I'm prepared to enlighten you to seriously think, prepare, and answer the question, are you ready? And I want to hear anything you have to say about the subject, whatever you may have to offer. You see, it's important that we share our knowledge with each other, learn from each other, and help each other out. See, the more prepared those around us are, the better your chances of survival will be when a disaster happens. Now, I'm sure everyone has heard the term zombies. Well, those are just those that are not prepared and come after whatever you have. This is a live call-in show, so the call-in number is 513-815-6336. Again, that's 513-815-6336. If you want to be a part of the show, feel free to call in. Also, check out our live chat room on Spreaker.com. And I post exclusive content on the home of Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram. Just go to Are You Ready Radio. You can interact with other members of the prepping community before, during, and after the broadcast. Share your knowledge. Again, the call-in number is 513-815-6336. And yes, that is live this week. Don't forget to check out our other sponsors. Support our sponsors and affiliates. And here we go. So I was trying to figure out what the best first episode to relaunch this program should actually be. And I was thinking a lot of us have been through this shelter-in-place situation the past 2 years. And at first, it may have been easy for everybody. Everybody may have gotten along just fine. After all, how hard could it be? You may have been living together your whole life. So how hard could this really be? Well, of course, you can expect the usual disagreements like any other, human has. There's always a few things, small or big, that upset each other. It's simple things like habits, behaviors, and many other things. So maybe you've been through a day or too, maybe of just bad weather, short-term illness, even staying or hosting relatives from out of town. And you kind of just go with the flow, and you're thinking that we'll be going home soon, or they'll be gone in a few days. And, then all of a sudden, over the past few years, it's been a bit different, though. You may have found that there was no leaving for a few days, sometimes a few weeks. And maybe if you had folks visiting from out of town, their stay and visit may have been extended, and they're not able to go home, or you may have been stuck there, not able to go home due to travel restrictions, shutdowns, quarantines, and you name it. We've had a wide gamut of things that have been going on the past few years. So maybe you've been in your home with the usual family members far longer than normal, and there was really no getting away from it. You didn't leave to go to work. You really didn't have a place to get away to cool down, or even get away from something that was really driving you crazy. Let's think about it. Some folks didn't go to school. They didn't go to their book club. They didn't go to Boy Scouts. They didn't go to AA meetings. They didn't go to the movies. They had no place to go because everything was shut down or being done remotely. So even things such as going to the office, going to work in most jobs, school, in all grades, even through college, that was all being done at home. So you didn't get to get out. You didn't get to get away from some of the pressures, the arguments, just to be able to take a break. So if anything, everything happened in your home, and you were stuck. You woke up, you ate, you lived, you worked, you went to school, and even most people went to church at home. Then you went to bed in the same place. You did all that, not getting away from the usual stress, whether it's minor in most cases, but just the stress of home in general. Now, of course, you're with the ones that you love, but no matter how much you love someone, you have to and want to get away from them from time to time. Getting away helps to let things go so you don't hold on to the feeling, attitudes, grudges, or negative emotions. It helps to reset, calm down, process, and overall just move on. It's a way for you just to get away, reflect, think, come up with a solution to a problem if needed, or just walk away from it just for a little bit. And let it go because it may not be worth the argument. It may not be worth getting stressed out over it. It may not be worth a conversation. When everything was closed and there was no place to go, what did you do? How did you handle it? And how do you prepare for an event like that again? So I'm going to share some tips with you during this broadcast, and I want to hear some of your ideas too, and hear what you did to get through some of that. 513-815-6336. Again, 513-815-6336. So I'd like to kind of hear what it is. So like I was saying, the past few years, most of you have been grappling or are still grappling or have grappled with fears of illness, worries about income, exhaustion from caretaking, and really uncertainty of what the next day brings, let alone the next year could really bring. Well, these fears plus good old-fashioned stir-craziness are enough to strain even the healthiest of families, or maybe it's not a family. Maybe it's a roommate that you live with. And often these lead to conflicts. Simple little bread and butter fears about having mental resources while sheltered in place, and the strains on juggling certain things like responsibilities, caretaking, a number of different things can further strain even the healthiest of any home dynamic. And another thing that you really got to look at is, for many folks, is home really friendly? For some folks, home isn't really friendly or safe. Self-isolation can heighten what may already have been a volatile or unsuitable living situation. And I was looking at a statistic, and this is what made me think of this whole thing, that an estimated 10 million Americans, or 3% of the U.S. population, experience violence in the home every year. Well, how do you handle that in a bug-in, shelter-in-place, or even a bug-out situation? What kind of situations did you have to deal with? And again, we'd love to have your questions and love to hear your comments. 513-815-6336. 513-815-6336. And don't forget about our chat room. Speaking of our chat room, hi, Dave. Welcome to the show. Glad you're listening. And yes, this is the real official relaunch. Yes, it is. So welcome aboard to our maiden voyage. He came in our chat room. We did an unannounced show a couple weeks ago just to kind of test the water, see if I still remember how to use the switchboards and the connections and the equipment and all that. Test out some of our sound clips because we got a great new batch of stuff on the burner today for you. We have our prepping kitchen tips. We have our financial tips. We have prepping for pet tips. A whole bunch of different segments. And even one that I was thinking of that I finally put together when it comes to prepper mistakes, or I can't believe you just did that. So glad everybody's joining us this evening, and welcome to everybody in chat and also listening on our platforms. Again, maybe if you heard the plug, you can find us on almost every podcasting platform except for Amazon. We're not selling ourselves out there. But anyway, let's go on to our main topic before we run out of time going into our first commercial break. And if anybody has anything to chime in with, feel free to. So is the home safe and all that? Let's hear about that. If anybody has something to add or contribute to that. How can you build stronger relationships during stressful times for everyone? Tension doesn't have to translate into household conflict. And when you really look at conflict, it's important that part of your prepping and survival plan should be different situations and how you handle who are the members of your unit that you may be sheltered in place with. And a lot of folks never gave this much thought. A lot of folks said, this is just thrown on them. There was no plan. Everything was shut down, stay home, this is the way it is now, and just get through it. There was no playbook. There was no manual. There was no guidance. Aside from as things developed, you'd probably hear about it, but if maybe your communication wasn't all on, there, you may have not been receiving some information, some important updates, or even known that different resources may still be available. So it's important that as a prepper, a lot of times people think of gear, equipment, knives and backpacks and all kinds of stuff to say that this is how they're going to survive the apocalypse, maybe the next pandemic, and all the gear and all the tools and even the training to use those tools and gear may be very handy. But one of the main important things that are the difference between just surviving and thriving is, yes, your training, but your mind, having a healthy, sound mind, and also making sure that your plan has certain things in place for how to deal with certain situations, especially when it comes to conflicts. So really it's important to understand a little bit about conflict, how it works, how to avoid it. And not all conflict is bad. It's not all negative. Some conflict is actually quite positive because it encourages certain things and a way for people to start working together. If, that's a big if, it could be addressed and turn into a positive situation and be dealt with as such. So, really, the biggest part about conflict is just having some flexibility. Cognitive flexibility is really what it's called. And really, that's the ability to recognize that there are many potential solutions to conflict. So, being open and having respectful communication have actually been shown to reduce conflict and even anxiety. So, think about that. Work on and think of certain situations that you may have been in the past few years that have led to conflict that may have easily been resolved looking back at it in hindsight, or that may have escalated or grown beyond being able to solve with the means or resources or knowledge that you had back then. At the same time, practicing self-reassurance and self-reassurance and self-efficiency really helps in your ability to calm negative thoughts and maintain confidence in your own capabilities. So again, this has been shown to lessen the psychological weight and a lot of things in different fields, particularly caregivers, as many of us have really become aware of over the past few years, especially during the coronavirus. Anybody have anything to add to that? I'd love to hear from you. I would also like to introduce one of our new segments before we run out of time during this commercial break, and it kind of comes from our prepping kitchen. So I'm going to go ahead and burp, 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 burpy, burp, 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 burpy, burp, 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 burpy, burp, 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 burpy. Yep, that's it. So lately, a lot of folks, speaking of the pandemic and everything else, have been looking around their kitchen because a lot of things, there's a lot of limitations still going on. And are you shopping and not finding the food or brands that you normally purchase due to some of these shortages? And depending on your diet, this may be a great time to try different brands and maybe see how you like a store brand compared to what you normally buy. This is also a great time to go through your pantry and your stockpile of food that you may have stored for long term and really start cycling through it. A lot of times folks may put a lot of food in the back of their pantries, say that this is our doomsday survival food, and leave it there forever. So probably start cycling through that. It really will, and this will definitely help you save money now, especially since prices have been increasing significantly. And of course, yes, and we had the inflation, we had the supply, we have the limitations. We have logistical issues still going on, but the prices have increased, and you may not have to buy anything now. And really, you could be in good shape with the food supply for a few months that you should be able to eat, at least a portion of it. And of course, it all depends on how much food you have stored. So not all the food you have stored, may help you ride out the whole price increase in hopes it gets better. But why spend the money if you don't have to? So that's our little prepping kitchen tip of the week. And let's see. There we go. Burpity burp burp burp. We do have a commercial break coming up, which we have to take here at the bottom of the hour. So I want everybody to stick around. And again, if you have anything you'd like to add to the show, feel free to call in. And we'll be right back after these few words. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market, stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit zombieoutpoststore.com for location and hours. Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Greetings and salutations, Counterculture-Wise listeners. This is Maximilian von Riegelbieser inviting you and yours to listen to me and mine. Join me, my sisters Abby and Fritzy, and my weekly guests, my father Jim and Mumsy Melanie, for Counterculture-Wise.
Max, it's not your show!
And we're not your guests, Max. We're the hosts. You may want to rein it in a little bit, buddy.
Very well. Tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific at counterculturewise.com for our amazing live variety show. You can even chat with us. If you ask me, though, it should be called Counterculture Max.
Counterculture-Wise! Radio with heart in mind.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra toned is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. recite the Constitution in a public commons, or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. And here we are, 513-815-6336, 513-815-6336. If anybody wants to be a part of the chat here or the program, the phone lines are open, although the phone line is limited. So give us a call if you want to jump in. I'm also going to post that number in the chat room for anybody joining us there. And this week, our episode is about resolving conflict, or avoiding conflict, or preparing for conflict, if there is, during your bug-out or bug-in, shelter-in-place situation. 513-815-6336 is a way to be a part of the show. So before the break, we were talking about, just practicing that self-reassurance and the ability to calm the negative thoughts and maintain confidence with your own capabilities in order to get through conflict. And just kind of some of the conflicts that have come up. And, of course, as far as some solutions to them, that's what this program is about, maybe getting ready for them, because a lot of it was not part of your ready plan, preparedness plan, your shelter-in-place plan. So really we could put some of those findings into practice by taking a proactive approach to preventing and managing household conflicts during a situation like that. We can focus on being loving, being generous with ourselves, keeping the lines of communication open among household members, and really empathy. You want to empathize with each other. Whether you really agree with it or you disagree with it, empathy can really go a long way. So what if you're stuck? We mentioned before the commercial break. What if it's not necessarily a family living together, but maybe you're stuck with a roommate you can't stand? In large cities like New York, California's not a city, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, a lot of major cities, you may live with a roommate due to high rents. 40% of the renters live with roommates in a city like New York City. And that really was one of the epicenters of the outbreak. So, anything from like a snippy little text accusing you of eating the last pickle, to that roommate who never puts down the toilet seat. There could be that simmering passive-aggressive, behavior, the bad roommate situation, and they're trying in even some of the best circumstances, but, really it's not working. In the context of global pandemic, tricky roommate dynamic can risk, becoming unbearable. But you can take steps now to help diffuse potential conflict. And this really works in just a general family household as well with relatives. First of all, it's really important to establish, and we were slightly touched about communication before the break, but now I'm going to go into a little more detail about each of these. Really establish respectful communication, and not just communication respectful between each other, but also about your health. Everybody's heard that the virus spreads and blah, blah, 50% of the people who live with the coronavirus suffer, eventually, they contract the illness themselves when they live with other people, and, on and on and on and on and on. But it's important to have serious conversations with your roommate about your health and what steps you're each are going to take, should take, what you're going to start taking when you show symptoms. Now, this is not just for this virus. See, don't put it as this virus. This could be a number of different things, not just what has happened. What has happened is really just the dress rehearsal. What has happened is just to see, this really tested a lot of folks around the world. It was just a test. Did you pass it? Now you can go back to your plan and say, here's where I need to improve this area of it. So, even if you haven't started this before, now is a good time to start it. This is a good time to start. So address questions like, if one person gets sick, what if they have to be isolated in the room? Who will cook for them? What bathroom will they use? How will they sanitize the bathroom after use? How will they sanitize their own area that they're staying in? Also, set a schedule for shared living space. A lot of tensions can build because, no one really wants to sit in a little box, regardless of whatever, the illness is. However, there are times when people they do suffer from immunity deficiencies, or someone may be sick, other members in the household can't be around it, other members of the household choose not to be around it for whatever their reasons are. So if you set up, especially if you're in a small apartment, it could be very cramped, and it gets cramped really fast. So whether it's a roommate, a small home living situation, sharing a space in a small apartment, like I said, can become very cramped, and this could be one of those things that lead to a lot of trouble peacefully coexisting. So try to set a schedule for shared living space, because everybody wants to be able to enjoy some of the comforts of the whole home. The kitchen, the living room with the big TV and the nice sound system if there is one, the comfy couch, not just sitting in their bed looking out a window. So creating a schedule for shared living space can help avoid conflict. And what else? Of course, that also can lead to time for yourself. So even if it's just a few minutes, a timeout can be a way for people just to get away, where during that certain time, it's their quiet time, whatever's happening at that moment ends. So even if there is some argument or something, having that scheduled time, having a schedule, having some sort of where you share the scheduled share space could lead into also scheduled time away from everything as well. Kind of putting yourself in a timeout. You give yourself a timeout. So if you're having a hard time dealing with a toddler or some random mayhem, your daughter, your son, or your mother, or your dad, maybe you deserve the luxury of a little time alone. And, if everybody's private room or something, little bedroom is off limits to everybody during times like that, that's your place to go to have your time out. and it's your world to do whatever you want in. So I think it's also important for them, like we'll say in the case of, we'll say a teenager where, that becomes their room, their little domain. And maybe in the past, you can't use a stapler to put posters on the wall. But yet you have these posters, and you can't get the little stickies or, whatever to put them on the wall. Give them the stapler. Let them create their little getaway space, their own quiet place for them to retreat to, away. Building morale is very important in a survival situation. Keeping morale up is very important. Don't focus on the way the house rules normally are, because guess what? The rules in the rest of the world have changed, and you're adapting to them, and your household also needs to be able to adapt. So let everybody have their little space that's just theirs. If they don't have their own room, make it fun. I had someone that actually pitched. They live in like a loft apartment in the city. And so it's kind of like they have the cool little curtains and little dividers and stuff like that. And it's a funky little place, and it's awesome. But you really don't get a privacy in an apartment like that. So what they did was they actually pitched a bunch of tents. And they made their own little tent thing in the middle of this whole thing, just to have a little more privacy. It didn't block out the noise. It really didn't do much of anything, but just kind of give each of them, it was a 3-member household, give each of them just their own sense of this is their own little bubble that they can just go to. And whatever they did in their tent, they could do in their tent. It didn't matter. I mean, of course, with very few exceptions. It was pretty much treated like their little bedroom. So, other people don't take well to being entirely alone or self-isolating. And maybe you live in a household where it's always busy, always chaotic, and everybody's always on top of each other. When you have a different dynamic and everything becomes very quiet and everything is, almost to the point of boredom, that could also lead to conflict. Because everybody's used to running 100 different directions, doing 1,000 different activities. And when those activities are not around anymore, they get bored. And when they get bored because they don't have the regular life that they're living, they also get bored with the family. And so conflict starts. And it's important to have some form of entertainment. Now, in past episodes, I've spoke about how, during, we'll say, power outages and severe storms in your shelters, if you're in a tornado area, always have, not just your emergency gear that you need, but also board games, books, magazines, anything to really pass the time if you're down there for an unusual amount of time. Well, that kind of goes for your home, too. And don't just rely on the internet. Don't just rely on digital entertainment, even TV. Of course, a lot came through to keep us entertained, and a lot of the online streaming sites were offering sometimes free content beyond what they normally offer for free. Just during that time, it was kind of a marketing strategy of theirs. Because people were so used to having so much digital content pumped into them. But you need to get away from that as well. It can't always be, we'll just plug in and get away from it. What if the next round, none of that was available? Now's a good time to maybe go to a thrift store, go to a flea market, and buy. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Just buy a stack of board games. And I mean, don't go looking for your favorite board game that you love playing. You may already own it. I'm talking about buy some board games that no one, or maybe only one person in that family has played. And just put it aside. don't play it. Until the day comes when you really need something interesting that you haven't done before. And that's your I've never done this before board game. Maybe there's a book or something, or maybe there's some other magazine or something that you said, you know what, I always want to get a copy of that magazine and go through it or flip through that catalog or something. Just get a copy of it and just put it aside. Don't look at it. Maybe it goes in your space. Maybe that goes in your quiet, off to the side, retreat, personal space, your timeout zone. That's just for you. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a book about anything. It could be a magazine, board game. It could be a girly magazine. Who cares? Make it fun. Make it exciting. Find something you've always just been like, you know what? If I ever have all the time in the world when I get older or when I'm on vacation, and you have that bucket list, I'm going to learn about making wine. I'm going to learn about nautical knots. I'm going to learn about nuclear physics. Get a couple books about it. Throw it in there. Something you know you're really not going to have time to do until you have time at last. All the time in the world. Kind of like that Twilight song. Time at last. All these books, I can finally read them. But have a spare pair of glasses in there with you if you need them. Let's see. On top of conflict, you probably heard a lot of stories in the news about domestic violence, about just violent conflict, abuse, and a lot of different things. When everybody is just on top of each other, things can escalate very quickly. If there already is an abusive relationship going on, it will manifest itself easier and more frequently than during normal times. However, abuse really is not a form of conflict. Conflict is actually mutual. Kind of brings me to a point I said where there's some conflict that is negative, some conflict that is positive. Conflict is good because folks can work things out. It's almost a form of discussion. It's a dynamic. It's human nature, and that's natural. Abuse is not conflict because abuse is not mutual. Conflict is mutual. You see, abuse is a repeated pattern of behavior in which one person controls another. Abuse is not your fault, and it's not your responsibility. Nor is it possible to practice abuse mutual. So you cannot practice mutual conflict resolution with an abuser. It doesn't work. Because it's not mutual. So really, during the lockdowns and stuff, family abuse did rise. And, I mean, it's sad it happened, but it happened. And a lot of folks may have had that book club to go out to. A lot of folks may have had their escape. Maybe a friend's house that they were able to go to. Maybe they had a number of escapes that they normally went to in the everyday world, whether it was going to school, but now school's at home. Maybe it was going to church, but now you're worshiping at home. Maybe you went to a book club. Well, that's shut down. You didn't have those gatherings. You didn't have those outlets going. So again, if you're self-isolating in an unsafe situation, it's really a good idea to come up with a plan to manage your risk. What is your safety plan in that situation? If you don't already have one, now's a good time to make one. reconsider, maybe the plan that you thought you had, did it work? How do you protect yourself and your children if you have them? So if violence escalates during a shelter-in-place situation, or shelter-in-place scenario, whatever it is, you can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Okay, you can call and chat and all that. They'd be much more qualified to come up with something beyond what I could probably come up with. Me, I just exercise constitutional rights. But maybe just something to consider reaching out to a trusted family member, a friend, let them know what the situation is, discuss potential risks and resources. Maybe if you need to leave the household, where are you going to shelter in place without a harmful person? Trust your gut. If you feel that violence, if you're experiencing it, if it starts to escalate or you think it's going to escalate, have that plan. If you have a feeling that you may be in danger, trust that gut. People who experience abuse become experts in the moods of their abusers. And if you feel that something's wrong, it is. So, what is your plan when you start to have that feeling? And again, I'd like to hear from anybody about this. Again, the call-in number is 513-815-6336, 513-815-6336. If anybody's just joining us, we're talking about conflict during a bug-out, bug-in situation, shelter in place, which a lot of us have experienced this past year, 2 years, actually. So, before we run out of time in this segment, I want to bring to you another segment, our Prepping for Pets segment, before we get back in to the main topic.
Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow.
Oh, wasn't that beautiful, folks? Yes. Our the new producer of the show, Magic the Prepper Cat, loves the pet segment intro music, and only he understands what it really says. As we were talking about in our first cutaway segment there, our Prepper Kitchen, what we're doing about different shortages. Well, if you go to the pet aisle, or even a pet store for that matter, it's really slim pickings as far as the pet food that is available. I think dog food will make a faster comeback before cat food, because most dogs are lazy. So I know Magic, he's all about his foodies, and so he'll probably eat my face off if there's no more kitty food in the house. But I do my best to keep him fed. And that brings me to domestic cats are truly carnivorous. Meaning that they really don't eat. They're meat eaters, primarily. They need animal proteins to survive. And, of course, not just survive, but thrive. So that means that cats really have some specialty dietary requirements that do not apply to many other animals, including humans and dogs. Basically, cats have much higher protein requirements in their diet than a typical meat-based diet. They've come to rely on protein as their main energy source. But I myself have found that it's slim pickings. And I'm still at the point where I can go into the pet food store, as picky of an eater as he is, because if you put food down in front of him for 3 days in a row and he scarfs at it, we're past the bowl flipping phase. If you put food down in front of him, he used to just take his paw, flip the bowl, we're past that phase now. We've been past that phase for about a year. So he's still grumpy old man now, but we're past. He's not flipping the bowl anymore. But a lot of folks are really starting to worry, and I've heard a lot of banter in different forms from folks that have said that, oh, well, my cat, we switched over, and since we're vegan or since we're vegetarians anyway, we mostly use like herd product made from mashed processed soybeans, plant byproducts and all that, wheat gluten, lab-grown or cultured meats where it's not animal tissue cells, although I think it has been formed from animal tissue cells, probably something like that. But if you look around the store and you're having trouble finding pet food, a couple things you may want to consider. It's just fish in general. Now, you don't want them eating from the aquarium. There's probably nothing left at this point if you haven't been buying them the right food. And if you've been having trouble finding kitty food, there's nothing left in there, whether you realize it or not. Oily fish, tuna, mackerel, really helps great. Also helps their eyesight. Any kind of meat, poultry, beef, depends on your kitty. Not all kitties like pork. Liver is not the best thing. But you do want to skip meats that have high sodium anyway. Ham, cold cut ham that you get at the deli counter and all that. A lot of salt can be toxic to cats. Cheese is not horrible. Mine's partial to Gouda and smoked Gouda too. Bananas, berries, melons, carrots, rice, pumpkin, oatmeal, eggs, even eggs. Of course, cooked, never raw eggs. Spinach is great. Despite what your cat may tell you and how much they want it, avoid liver, chocolate, caffeine, and alcohol. So, that would definitely be a bad thing. You just imagine how silly the kitty would act after that. Plant-based substitutes are no substitute when it comes to your kitty's diet. Your dog may be able to survive off them, and you may be able to survive off them once your enzymes adjust. Your kitties will not. Also avoid too much rice. But moderate amount of rice is of no harm. Skip things that have bones in them. So very bony fish, make sure they're cleaned very well and prepared right. Same thing with poultry. And that is our prepping tip of the week. Well, we are coming right back after this commercial break. And if you want to be a part of the show, call a number I lost, but it's in the chat room somewhere. It begins with 513. There it is. 513-815-6336. 513-815-6336. We will be right back. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market, stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit zombieoutpoststore.com for location and hours. Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Hey, how you doing? This is Magic Pierce inviting you and yours to listen to some good friends of mine that have a show too. Did you really think my daddy is the only one that just runs his mouth all the time and that's the only thing I listen to? No, it's not. I got a show I listen to on Sundays. Join host Max and his co-host, my hottie Fritzy, and of course my good friend Abby on Counterculture-Wise, Sundays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. They have their own human guests, Melanie and Jim, each week. They don't meow a lot, but you get what they're saying. Now let me tell you, you have to go to counterculturewise.com. Use your paws to play with the mouse and scroll down to the on-the-air button on the right to hear their show. Just click on that. After that, watch them on Periscope like I do. Daddy gives me a little mouse to play with, and I get farts the whole time. It's a great show. Check it out. Counterculturewise.com. If you don't tune in, I get cuckoos on you.
Thank you so much for that ringing endorsement, Magic. It warms the orange hearts of me and Abby and the gray heart of Fritzy to hear you say such amazing things about our show. I'm pretty sure that Mumsy and Father have pink hearts, so we will assume their hearts are warmed too.
Forget about it. I got you guys. Good peoples.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra toned is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. Recite the Constitution in a public commons or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. All right, welcome back, everyone. Glad everybody managed to get through that commercial break. And let's see. You're listening to Are You Ready with Nick Pierce. I'm the Barefoot Prepper and your host this evening. Are You Ready can also be heard on iHeartRadio, live on Spreaker, Spotify, almost every major podcasting platform, and about to hit FM soon. That deal is in the works, and we may also be bringing over our dear friends from Vegas that are now in Texas. Magic's friends, his girlfriend's show anyway, that him and Max run. Melanie and Jim are their guests every week. I don't know if you heard that commercial. And counterculture-wise, great folks. Make sure you check out their show. Dear friends of mine and the show here, and vice versa. So make sure you check out their show, counterculture-wise, as well. Let's go ahead and kill that music there and move on with it. There we go. Are You Ready Radio? Yes, you're from NP Media NP Media Group flagship headquarters, whatever you want to call it. This week, conflict. What is conflict? You know, we were briefly discussing that in the beginning. And although it really wasn't necessarily defined, I want to see what anybody else came up with. If you have an idea of what it is, use the phone number to call in, 513-815-6336, 513-815-6336. What are you doing to avoid conflict? Or if you have any comments or questions about any of the other segments, maybe what's going on in your kitchen with some limited resources happening right now. And also your pets, let us know. Coming up, we also have our prepping financial tip and our prepping mistake of the week, so don't go too far. But as far as conflict, conflict really is the result of a difference of whether it's perception, opinion, or beliefs among people. I mean, really, that's it defined. Usually conflicts occur when folks are, maybe they just have incompatible goals, even thoughts, or sometimes really emotions between two or more individuals. And it really results in some opposition or some disagreement. So once you can define exactly what the conflict is, you know how to deal with it in your situation. So whether you're sheltered in place for a short amount of time, like I said in the beginning, sometimes it may just be for a couple hours during a storm, just riding it out. Everybody's like having a bad day. Everybody's at each other's throats, and the storm comes in, and you're just like, oh, we got to go down to the storm cellar. The hurricane's here. We're going to be here for a couple days. And it even goes beyond that. Some storms, you'll watch the news, and folks are evacuated, and sometimes they're living in gymnasiums at schools. And you may be with a couple hundred to 1,000 other people in a particular gymnasium under very limited conditions. A lot of uncertainty can fuel emotion, a sense of, worry, panic. Maybe you didn't leave with everything you normally have. You don't have a lot of the comforts at home. Maybe you weren't prepared. Maybe you didn't have that go bag. Maybe you didn't have that get home bag ready. And, that's what I need, a Swiss Army teddy bear. I'm going to put that on my new list of gear to get. So, I need my teddy bear, but I think it should also be like a Swiss Army knife. Anyway, a tactical teddy bear. I got this one. Anyway, there's a couple different types of conflicts, getting back onto the main subject. And really there's two different types of conflicts. There's people are interpersonal conflicts, and there's also task-focused conflicts. A lot of times we hear about this in the business world. A lot of times maybe, it's kind of defined that way when it comes to business, when it comes to project management, when it comes to, an office work environment. But it's really no different in your home unit or in your prepper tribe, whoever it is that's part of that group. They're either sheltered in place with, whether it's the relatives visiting from out of town or you're in a bug-out situation, and you have your entire group there that's been planning and preparing for this day, and everything starts to come together. People start coming together. Everybody's gear starts coming together. The plan's starting to unfold. The romance is about to end because of conflict. And, in people conflicts, which is probably one of the most common of them all, it's really the person, and this is the main difference between the task and the interpersonal or people-related conflict, is that it's really the people that play a role in the creation of a dysfunctional conflict. And although they can be very intense, emotional, believe me, very personal, and, but they can also be subjective, these could be difficult to resolve. And it could lead to some sort of detriment to your unit and its success if you're not able to resolve the conflict. Sometimes it could be because of someone's style, their ego, personalities, maybe just their general ethics, and other things that can cause conflict are just poor role definition. Maybe goals or certain things that someone's expected, almost like expectations, or maybe their priorities could lead to conflict. And, once you can identify what's causing the conflict, you can start to address how to resolve that conflict. And now, I said at the beginning that certain units, families, whatever you want to define it as, conflict, it can be a benefit. Because certain units need conflict in order to develop and mature. So this is kind of like part of the positive conflict. And, it's important and beneficial at times. Because sometimes it's good to bring out sensitive issues to a group for discussion and work through that in real time. And it's really just the process of facing healthy debate. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But at times, it may also be necessary to avoid interfering with members in their conflicts. So, you don't want to always get involved in every single conflict. Because we'll say, you have a family household and maybe 4 members, okay? And father and daughter may be getting into it over an issue. Maybe father doesn't approve of daughter's hair or a tattoo they got or, something. However, mother may not mind. Brother may think it's cool. Or brother may not care. Well, what if brother is like a psychology major and, brother feels that, they're going to school for psychology or psychiatry and, this is their specialty. Father-daughter need to work certain things out because then what you end up with is everybody has an opinion. You can't grow a healthy family unit with everybody always battling each other. You can't always have any resolution to anything if it's 3 against 1, 1 against 3, 2 against 2. What's done is done. Look at it with we'll say the case of a hairstyle or the color of someone's hair. Well, we can always change it later. No big deal. I mean, that's kind of my approach. Would everybody agree with that? Probably not. I think only the listeners of this show really agree with anything I really say at all. That's why you're listening. But nonetheless, everybody should not be involved in conflict. At times, you just got to sit back. And it kind of goes to that saying of pick your battles, pick your, just pick your battles. Speaking of picking your battles and talking of mistakes that people make, we have our prepping mistake of the week. Yes, here you go. Your prepping mistake of the week, along with other nonsense that folks in the prepper community make. Let's see. Here's a prepping mistake. Trying to predict the future. This is very common among preppers. A lot of times, and this kind of goes along the line of what you may have heard in some of the past shows in our previous runs that we've had over the past 3 years. A prepping mistake that a lot of people make is trying to prepare for everything. This is kind of right up there with them. A lot of times people try to predict the future. Most people spend way too much time and energy trying to figure out the next big crisis. For example, will it be a pandemic again? Will it be a mass financial collapse? Will it be the super volcano eruption? Mass drought? The list goes, meteors, EMPs, you name it. Sure, this sort of thinking can be helpful, and I find it very entertaining to some degree, but it's not really helping you get prepared. Okay? It really isn't. Instead, I like to prepare for all potential crises. Try to avoid focusing on anything you can't control. Okay? You're not going to be able to control a pandemic. You're not going to be able to control an EMP. You're not going to be able to, control a meteor, hitting the face of the earth. You're not going to be able to control earthquakes and all that. Okay? Whatever the next widespread disaster could be, it's not something you can control. So what can you control? Okay? You can only control how resilient you and your family are to anything the future may hold. Okay? Focus your energy on improving your readiness instead of spending time, just sitting there consuming news and drawing theories and, driving yourself crazy. Coming up with just visions of what you plan to do when, the meteor hits. When the meteor hits, what are you going to do? You're going to burn and die. When you get hit by a nuclear bomb, you're going to burn and die. If the meteor misses you, if the nuclear bomb misses you, if the EMP doesn't affect you, now you have a chance. Okay? Yes, you want to be informed. There's no point, to which no longer being informed is a good thing. It's not what I'm saying. At some point, you need to start spending your time wisely. You could be the one that reads everything, but you don't have action or plan for it, but at least you're informed. Okay? That does one thing for you. You're nothing more than informed. Or you lose sleep because you're doing nothing but thinking about everything that you just read all day. It's not productive. If you're not spending your time wisely to prepare for whatever it is, So if you survive whatever you cannot control, are you prepared to ride it out? Who was able to control the pandemic? No one. Who rode out that pandemic with no problem? Those that prepared for pretty much anything that could happen, but that they had control over. So spend your time wisely, focus on what you can control, and avoid trying to predict the future. Well, that's my tip for prepper stupidity this week, or prepper mistakes a lot of folks make. And I can't even say stupidity. A lot of times people get caught up on watching some of these shows like Doomsday Preppers and, oh, this guy's got a helicopter, and okay, that should be my plan. So I need a helicopter. Oh, they watch another episode. Oh, and this guy has like 12 years worth of dried food, dehydrated food. So I should probably start with maybe about 6 years. No. Food storage is another mistake that people make, which we could totally get into in an episode in and of itself. And let's see, we have a thing in the chat. I live near a military base. Our pastor who used to work there was asked his opinion on what to do if it was attacked. He replied, maybe you'll see the flash. Would be a bad time to be uncertain about the future, but not a lot to do about it. Well, that's a very good point. That is a very good point. Like I said, Dave, you're right. Your pastor's right. There is, sometimes no preparing for everything. You have no control over it. I don't know if anybody remembers, there was the nuclear alarm that went off. I believe it was in Hawaii a few years ago. And people were running around scurrying, trying to figure out what to do. Some guy took out his golf clubs and realized that there's not a damn thing he can do. And he just started, I think, driving balls into the ocean. He just sat there and said, well, here it is. What am I going to do? And, I guess sit by and just, maybe you'll see the flash. Yeah, Dave, you're right in the chat. That was quite the wake-up call. I'm sure he went and got a bag and a gas mask and probably started digging a hole a couple feet below the ground and buried a school bus there to live in with a 5-gallon bucket to take a dump in for the rest of his life. So, that's great. I don't put down people's plans. Everybody's preparing for something. Everybody knows their situation better. But, your survival, your prepping plan will evolve as the world evolves, as your family evolves, as things change, as the world changes. There's a lot of factors and variables. It has to be fluid. And sometimes folks just need to sit back and say, I need to readdress some of this. And before we run out of time, I do want to hit our financial segment real quick so that we can put a button on the show here shortly. So, as people go through their financial situation, they're looking at it saying, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have the income that we had if you don't have it anymore, or maybe start generating a little extra income. A couple ways to do this. And, a lot of times people think that preppers are hoarders. Well, I think the true prepper really saves what they need and gets rid of what they don't. So if you've been looking for some space around your home, if you have a ton of stuff that you really don't need, sometimes you may have outgrown stuff and you just want to throw it out. Online sites like Amazon, eBay, Poshmark, and many others have been a great way to add some extra cash to your pocket. The online retail market has grown significantly over the past few, especially 2 years, as well as logistics and delivery. And, ever since shutdowns and all that, and maybe if you need more room in your home, another alternative, that would be great. Start listing stuff. If you don't want the hassle, and especially doing garage sale, yard sale stuff, that could be a real pain. Another alternative are flea markets. You can rent space dirt cheap for a day, a weekend, or a month, or whatever. Stack all your stuff in there. They do the advertising for you. They bring people in, so you don't even have to worry about hanging garage and yard sale signs up. So even if you have a hobby, like maybe you make little survival kits, maybe you make, beads, maybe you make jewelry, maybe you make costumes, maybe you make masks, maybe you make T-shirts, whatever it is. This is a great opportunity to turn a passion into cash. And, if you have a bunch of stuff around your home, most flea markets all year round, you can go there and sell in the middle of the winter. The advertising's done. People will come. You don't have to hang signs on the street corner and sit out there and freeze or sweat in the summer. So, it's a great alternative to put some extra cash in there. I know some folks that do it. If they just do it as a hobby, they're making $1,000 a month easily. Do it as a full time and you treat it like a business, you can make $1,000 a weekend. So definitely worth looking into. And let's see. So this was the maiden voyage of Are You Ready? Well, I hope that I helped you seriously think, prepare, and answer the question, are you ready? I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in and the support you give the show. Our guests, the callers, our friends in chat, listeners, clients, customers, everybody at the store, everything. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also find us on the web at nickpiercemedia.com. Click on the program's link. Find us on your favorite podcast platforms and on our home on Spreaker. To contribute to the show, go to Nick Pierce Media and click on the Support the Show link. Are You Ready Radio is the official podcast of Zombie Outpost in Wilmington, Ohio, and is an NP Media Group production. If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker.